What's up, nerds and nerdettes? This is the podcast where everyone knows your name. Cheers to ya.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Tyler, and this is 30 and Nerdy. We're coming at you from the Fortress of Nerditude with yours truly, the RNP, the Registered Nerd Practitioner, the founder of Nerdledge. That'd be me, the Mac himself. And as always, awesome to be joined by my co-host, the Juicy One, the Nerdtorious JLD, the PhD of Nerdology, Dr. Davis himself.
Right. Can't beat that.
You really can't.
Slick as a biscuit. And it's great to be back. And on this week's edition, we're bringing back our popular segment, What You Watchin', where we give you some recommendations of some entertainment for you for this week. We're also, of course, going to have a new nerd word when Tyler talks nerdy to us. And we are going to give you the nerd news of this week right before we break it down on the Fellowship of the Ring.
Yes, and for those of you listening, thank you so much. Week in and week out, man, we get more subscribers, we get more followers, and it's a lot of fun, and it's fantastic.
We know a lot of really great people, so I was confident that that when we started this, we would have people that were supportive of us and everything, but there are people who are not just supporting, but like big fans. Like they really enjoy the show, and that means a lot to me. You know,
they're listening, they're questioning us, they're sending in comments.
Sometimes, people that I'm surprised because I didn't think this is stuff that they would be interested in, but they're all about it, and it just makes me so happy. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, and keep it up. Follow us.
Tell your friends.
Yeah, tell your friends. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at 30 and Nerdy Pod. And all these are 30, the number 30. And you can subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Overcast, Pocket Cast, TuneIn, Radio Public, and we have a YouTube channel. So you can really find us anywhere.
I don't know what half of those things are, but I'm glad that we're there.
We're there. And definitely check out our website, www.30andnerdypodcast.com. for all the latest info on the nerds. So, Dr. Davis, how you doing, brother?
Oh man, I'm doing well. There's so much to tell from this week. First of all, it's a miracle that I'm even alive and here to do the show today.
What happened?
Well, it's been raining a lot here in beautiful East Tennessee, and because of that, my yard turned into a jungle. Yes. And yesterday was like the only pretty day that we had, so I said, I'm gonna mow my yard. Well, I'm mowing, listening to a podcast or something, minding my own business, enjoying my day, and I feel something hit me in the leg. So, oh, what was that? Then I felt another one, and I looked down, and I'm surrounded by yellow jackets.
Thousands.
Well, like 5, but it felt like thousands. So I ran over a yellow jacket nest. So that was not a fun experience.
Oh my!
Beyond that, I got to do this cool thing. I did some voiceover work.
Really?
Yeah, a couple of friends of ours at Freddy Cat Productions here in Morristown.
Ashley and TJ.
Yeah, they're doing some local commercial work. I don't know how much I can say about it. I was kind of sworn to secrecy, but they had me come in and do some voiceover work, and the character that I voiced is actually something that they thought of me when they thought of this character for a reason.
So he's a bad guy.
Well, we didn't say that.
He's a heel.
From a certain point of view, I guess. But no, I've seen the finished product. It's great. And when it's out and about, I'll talk about it again. But Freddy Cat Productions, they do commercials for individuals and businesses and film and all that stuff. So if you're ever in need of anything like that, hit them up. The greatest thing of all, Emma has a new favorite word. My daughter, she has a favorite new word.
What is it?
Poop. Poop. And it's not like, hey Dad, I've pooped.
She says it.
She just likes the word poop.
Huh.
Just poop. Poop. So
Oh no, she's saying wolf too. Doggy goes, oof.
She's yeah. Well, she was kind of. It seemed like she was behind on talking for a little bit, and all of a sudden she's got like this big, massive vocabulary. So
Well, good.
yeah, it's something new every day. So how about you? What's going on in Tyler's world?
Well, we are, in the heat of it with rehearsals. I did have a little bit of a setback. Wednesday night during rehearsal, I sprained my foot. Not my ankle, my foot. And had to go to the doctor the next morning, and he gave me a shot in my foot. And it was the weirdest thing on the face of the planet I have ever felt. It was painful, but the first reaction was, whoa! Like they're putting a needle in my foot. It was swollen, it was ugly, and it was. So I've been off of it for the past few days. Had to sit out a rehearsal, which for a theater nerd like myself, that's difficult.
Yeah.
But I feel rested, I feel good. Swelling's gone down. We start Tech Week tomorrow.
Nice.
At 2 p.m. And as those theater nerds call it, Heck Week. So we open next weekend, and that's pretty much been it. Tech Week, work, and family stuff, and hanging out with you a lot.
Yeah. What more could you want?
I know.
That just goes to show you the theaters that it can be a dangerous place to be.
Oh yeah.
So don't come around there unless you're a real tough guy.
Yeah, tough guy.
Yeah.
So you talked about what we're doing this week. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
We watched it today.
We did. I hadn't seen it in at least a couple years or so.
And I'd never seen the extended edition.
I don't know where you've been for the past
just in the regular edition.
Missing like 20 extra minutes of goodness. But that's right. We sat down today. We watched The Fellowship of the Ring. We are going to tell you all about it, and we got some questions from some friends.
We did.
We're going to talk about all that. I wanted to mention again something I spoke about 2 or 3 episodes ago. There's this cool charity event going on called Pops for Patients, where you can donate child-friendly boxed Pops to comic book stores in the area, and they are donating those to kids in East Tennessee Children's Hospital, and that's a great thing. So I went out to Knoxville this past week with David, who designs our logo. Shout out to David Armano. And we went to donate some Pops at Tall Man Comics.
Tall Man Toys and Comics?
Yes, that's it. Thank you. I had a great conversation with the guys there. It's a great place to go. Tons of Pops. I actually walked away without buying anything this time because I've got a trip coming up that I got to keep the funds for, but I will be going back over there. But it was great to see that lots of people had been there to donate. So if you're somebody who collects Pops and, maybe you got some that you think, I could part with that and a kid might like it, please consider donating it. It'd be a great thing.
Absolutely. And actually, Tall Man Toys and Comics gave us a shout out. They took a picture of you and David while you were there.
Right.
And Carter Howard, I believe is the guy's name.
Okay.
Tagged us and
Appreciate
thanked
that.
it, and it was really cool. So if you were in the Knoxville area, stop by that comic store, give Carter a shout out, and take some Pops.
Yeah.
Donate. It really is a great cause.
If you look at the picture, you'll see that I am holding the Disney Pops.
Shocker.
Yeah, I did that. Well, it was Star Wars and Disney stuff, and I thought because I figured
Disney. Star Wars is Disney. So
okay, but like Maui and Olaf and stuff like that. So the other ones I would say I held the Star Wars Pops, even though they're Disney, they're still Star Wars.
Well, no, not anymore. It's all Disney.
Okay, this is not Nerd Court 2. Dun dun. Goodness. And so, can you talk nerdy to me for a minute?
Absolutely, man. I will talk nerdy to you. So, I kind of kept it a little bit on theme for this week. Because, the Shirelings are called halflings.
Right.
So, I created a nerd word, nerdling. And what that is it is defined as a young nerd from ages 12 and under. I'll use it as an example. My little nephew is already turning out to be such a cute nerdling with all the Batman stuff I'm buying him. So use that in a sentence, especially if you're talking about younger brothers or sisters under the age of 12. Nerdling.
Yeah, we might have a nerdling or two that listens to the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Hence why we have to keep our mouths clean.
Right. And so, should we recommend some things to the people?
Yes,
It's
our favorite segment,
and we like to call it
What Ya Watchin'?
Except this week, we're not watching anything. It should be What You Listening to. So, if you're a fan of podcasts, which clearly you are because you're listening to this one,
Yes.
we have a couple of recommendations for you of some podcasts that you might enjoy. You want to go ahead, Todd?
Sure. Obviously, I've been listening to a lot of my good friend David and Tim, their podcast, Johnny Has the Keys.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it is a podcast all about all the great sci-fi and horror genre films, TV, books out there. They break it down. They've been doing a really great job. Lately, they've done this whole anthology of the Haunting of Hill House show on Netflix, and it's great stuff, but only if you've seen it. Don't listen to their stuff if you have not seen what they're talking about, because they'll spoil it for you. But they got some great stuff on like Alien and The Haunting of Hill House and Halloween, and I know there's going to be an Evil Dead one coming up because David actually worked on the movie Evil Dead.
Right.
So check that one out. Johnny Has the Keys. And the other one I really love listening to, I'm going to go ahead and warn you, it's not really for children. It's the comic book men, Walt and Brian, and they are joined by Brian Quinn from Impractical Jokers, Q, and it's called Tell 'em Steve Dave. And if you're a Jay and Silent Bob fan, like me, you know exactly where that comes from. Those are my two recommendations, Johnny Has the Keys and Tell 'em Steve Dave.
Great.
All right, Dr. Davis, what are you listening to?
So, I wanted to recommend this anyway, and I hope that my brother-in-law Billy is listening because he would really enjoy this one too. So it's called Inside Star Wars. It's a limited series about the origin of Star Wars, like the production of the movie and everything.
Like Blue Harvest?
No. No. It's sort of like an audiobook.
Okay.
Like most podcasts are conversations and all that.
Yeah.
This is like an audiobook. This guy kind of tells the story from the perspective of George Lucas, Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, all of them. He talks about all the struggles that George Lucas went through when he was trying to get the movie going. Nobody would take it seriously. Everybody thought it was going to be this silly, stupid little thing. And then, they were all wrong, and it turned out to change film as we know it.
Yeah.
But it's really, really good. The movie almost didn't get made.
Yeah.
His budget got cut 100 times. There were all these big egos on the set. The droids didn't get along. Kenny Baker and Anthony Daniels, R2 and 3PO, they hated each other. So there was that. Alec Guinness didn't want to be there. They had to double his pay. Crazy stuff. It's really enjoyable. It's called Inside Star Wars. I think it's going to be a 7-episode series, and they just released 5.
That's pretty intriguing.
Yeah.
I did not know that about the droids.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
getting along.
Yeah.
Maybe there was a lot of method acting in 3PO hitting R2. in the
Probably
movies.
so. It's my favorite part of the day, kicking the droid.
Kicking the droid. Shut up, R2. But that is what we've been listening to. And what do you say we get into some news?
Sounds good to me.
Right. Your nerd news for the week. Not a whole lot this week. A couple of the bigger items on the list. Hunger Games. Never thought we'd have to talk about this ever again. But apparently, Suzanne Collins is releasing a prequel novel set 60 years before the original Hunger Games novels that we didn't grow up reading, but the generation under us grew up reading. And they've already secured the movie rights.
Why wouldn't you?
Well, I guess, why wouldn't you?
It's gonna be a hit. I mean,
Sure.
no matter what it is. I'm not a huge fan myself, but I'm telling you, it's gonna be popular. I mean,
Well,
that's
Especially,
no way around it.
I think it has the opportunity to be even more popular without sweet little Jennifer Lawrence in it.
right.
As Katniss. I maybe they'll okay, I'm going to show that I did watch the movies in saying this. Maybe they'll show the destruction of what was the area that got destroyed, like Area 13 or something like that.
Oh, her district?
Yeah, not her district, not 12, but they made
Oh, yeah,
an
the
example.
secret one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
I see what
secret
you're
one.
saying.
Maybe
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is it. Maybe this is when it happened.
Right.
So, or maybe
Could
this
be.
is when the first Hunger Games or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know much about it. All I know is it's happening, and we'll see from there.
I read the books and I saw the movies, but I was just never really a
Yeah.
huge fan of that. But
What do you got?
well, exciting news for you Harry Potter fans. The Harry Potter app, Wizards Unite, I believe is the name of the game. That released like 2 days ago,
Yeah,
and
it did.
it's already created a lot of buzz. I did start playing it myself. I haven't really figured it out yet. It's basically Pokemon Go, but
Yeah, it's that augmented reality app.
similar, type of deal. You walk around and there's little stops you can go to and you can pick things up and you see like little things pop up to have a battle, like kind of like how a Pokemon would pop up and you would touch it to try to catch it.
Mm-hmm.
On this, you touch something and you have to cast a spell on it. I really can't figure it out, but I only played about 15 minutes. The story of this is set far off in the future, so Harry Potter is a grown-up.
Okay,
Yeah.
and you create your own Witcher Wizard.
Yes, but I'm guessing that a lot of true Harry Potter fans are going to be displeased with one thing about this game.
What is that?
So you get to set up your profile and what house you're going to be in at Hogwarts or what house you were in, because I guess you're an adult, and all this, and you put in your wand information. I chose my wand.
No. That's not how it goes,
Right?
though.
Right?
The wand chooses the wizard, Mr. Potter.
Well, not in this world it doesn't, because I designed my own wand, which was cool, and I liked that. But at the same time, that's not how it works.
Nope, that's not.
So, just think
Ooh.
about that,
Send an angry letter.
Wizards Unite.
So, and then we've got the end game.
For old time's sake, huh?
Ah, yes.
Exciting news about Endgame. We got the word this week.
I thought we would get rid of that
Never.
song.
The movie's going to be re-released in theaters next
Yeah.
week, which I'm excited to hear. But at the
Yes.
same time, I didn't know that it had left theaters yet.
I didn't either, to be
Yeah.
honest. I thought it was still there.
So maybe it was still there, but they're just starting this new version of it that has extended footage.
Maybe like 20 minutes,
I think
of
I saw
extended-
something that said
Yeah.
20 minutes, which it's already a long movie,
Yeah.
but hey, more is fine with me. The more the
Yeah.
merrier.
And it
So,
gives us an even bigger chance to take its stake as the number one film
Right.
in the world.
Yeah,
And in the history
yeah.
of the world. So,
And it's well deserved.
yeah, and it's very exciting, especially for us nerds. We need to go see it again.
I would like to.
Okay. And I know that there are a lot of times where we talk Marvel, and I cannot help but bring in something DC. And I have to mention this, because even you've got to be excited about this. Batman himself is getting his own Hollywood Walk of Fame star. He gets his own star, the Cape Crusader.
Right.
Not the people playing him, but Batman as an icon gets his own star.
Yeah, makes
And
sense. I
it's
mean,
80 years.
yeah,
It's been 80 years since Batman came out, and it's about time.
huge part of pop culture.
Absolutely.
Cinema history.
With some people who get stars, you're like, just now? He's just now getting a star
Yeah,
compared to
and-
some people who get them?
We heard on a podcast that the both of us listened to. Did you people know that Carrie Fisher does not have a star
It's
in
an
Hollywood?
abomination, the fact that she does not have a star.
I mean, that's
Oh,
pretty
it's garbage.
shocking.
It's very shocking. And that town, or like whoever's in charge of all that, said that if it's a post-mortem star, they wait 5 years after death before they allow a celebrity
right.
to go in if they've died. But there's current celebrities still alive who get their star.
Sure, and that's great. And I can sort of see why you might want to say, well, we like to wait a little bit after someone has passed, because you don't want it to seem like, oh, we're putting them on there just because they died,
Yeah.
right? So, I get that part of it too, but I'm thinking Star Wars came out in 1977.
Absolutely.
Why is Princess Leia? Everyone knows Princess Leia.
Absolutely.
The hairdo is iconic.
The Slave Leia costume is iconic.
Absolutely. So what's the deal? I don't understand.
Do the others have stars? Hamill has one.
I'm sure Harrison Ford
Harrison
does.
Ford's got one.
So
So why not?
I don't know. It's crazy.
I mean, it's terrible.
Someone should write an angry letter about that.
They absolutely should.
Maybe
So
I will.
that's all I got. I mean, there are some other small things, but we'll be sharing that on our Facebook page and stuff like that through the rest of the weekend and beginning of next week. But as for now, that is this week's Nerd News. It's summertime. Join us on the romantic island of Calicari in Encore Theatrical's hit show, Mamma Mia. This show is full of energy and sure to get you dancing. Mamma Mia is presented through special arrangement with Musical Theater International. Performances are June 28th through the 30th and July 5th through the 7th. Friday and Saturdays start at 8 p.m. and Sundays are at 2 p.m. This show will be held in the James D. Swan Performing Arts Center at Jefferson County High School in Dandridge, Tennessee. You can reserve your tickets by calling 423-318-8331. For more information, you can like Encore Theatrical on Facebook or check them out at www.etcplays.org. We hope to see you there, where it's not just theater, it's encore.
You know, after watching the Fellowship of the Ring today, I thought to myself, wouldn't it be so cool if the members of the Fellowship all had matching shirts?
Yes, it would.
Team Frodo, or like hashtag Fellowship, right?
I roll with the ring bearer.
That too. But, if Frodo and his friends had come to Morristown, they could probably have done that. Because we have a great friend over at Advertising Expressions named Zach, and he can do all sorts of custom things like that. He can make shirts for your fellowship, your church, your workplace, your school, anything you want, your whole family. So contact Zach at 423-586-3270. You can find him at 2103 Morningside Drive in Morristown, Tennessee, and his website is www.advertising-expressions.com, and tell him those nerds at 30 and Nerdy sent you, and he'll get you taken care of. And we're back.
Funny story about Zach is he sent us an email, right?
Yeah.
And it actually has to do with Lord of the Rings. Like, I have a story behind this, and we had talked about it, and we actually feel like we need to tell this story.
Yeah.
So you've got it in front of you. So, and you're the English major.
Yeah.
So why don't you read out the story that Zach sent?
Okay, I'm gonna read a part of the story. This is a really exciting email, actually. But basically, he starts out by telling us that he used to not really like the Lord of the Rings. And automatically I'm like, blasphemy. But here's his story. The first Lord of the Rings came out around my 20th birthday, 2001. Being a big hit and the movie nerd that I am, I wanted to go see it. My best friend Justin and I decided to celebrate my birthday by going to dinner and a movie. Well, Justin isn't all that punctual to begin with, so we were running late. And then after that, our dinner took slightly longer than expected. So we finished up and went to the show. We got there, bought the tickets, walked in, found our seats, and the first scene I remember was the guys walking into Bilbo's house after a party of some sort, is all I knew. As a side note, it is a huge pet peeve of mine to walk in late to a movie to the point that I didn't really want to go because I didn't want to miss anything. I agree with that. I'm the same way. Anyway, I had no idea what the real importance of the ring was, what it did, where it came from, nothing. All we knew was a couple of guys had to take this ring to a bad place to destroy it, and it was going to take 12 more hours, or 2 movies, or however awfully long they were collectively to do it. Again, because I'm a movie nerd, I went and saw the others, even though I didn't like the first one to begin with. I didn't go back and watch the first one, because why watch something that wasn't great, right? Sort of like The Last Jedi, right, Tyler? Lord. I knew I was in the minority, but I was okay with that because, in my opinion, the whole thing just didn't make sense. Okay, so that's the end of the story, that part of the story. And I think a lot of people would agree, like, oh, it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't get it, right? So he goes on to say, a friend of his asked him to watch it again. He's like, why am I going to sit there for 12 hours and watch something that I don't even like? But he decided to do it anyway, and he saw that first 15 or 20 minutes that explains the origin of the ring and talks about Sauron and all that stuff. And then he absolutely fell in love with it, to the point that when he had to get a new wedding ring, he got to get a replica of the One Ring.
Nice.
That is so cool.
That just goes to show that, like, I can't believe I'm going to say this. Those small details at the beginning that he missed.
Oh, yeah.
Changed his entire opinion.
Pretty important, those deets, aren't they?
Yeah, New Line did a great job with those details.
Yeah, they did. I agree. But at my wedding, when Becky put the ring on my finger, she looked at me and said, "One ring to rule them all." I was flabbergasted. I was like, "This is the right. This is the right choice." So, yeah, Lord of the Rings is huge for me. It's a huge, huge part of my life. I've loved it since I was, 10, 11 years old.
I'm a child.
Yes.
Thanks for the story, Zach.
That was a cool
fun.
story.
That's fun. So, speaking of the rings, we're gonna get into Break It Down.
That's right. We are breaking down the Fellowship of the Ring. Just the first one. We're not going to do the other two this time. I'm sure we'll get to that in the future.
And we are doing the movie,
right?
Not the book.
Right.
And it could be a long discussion, a nice little lengthy discussion. And if you don't like that, well, you can take a long walk off a short Mount Doom. So,
Sorry, I don't have a real sound effect for that.
The one thing you don't have
the only thing I don't have.
So,
add that to the list.
We open with the Elven speech, Galadriel talking, and she's talking about the One Rings, okay? And there's a funny story behind this. You bet Becky at one point in your all's relationship that you could quote it.
Yeah, pretty much.
For a long time, and you got all the way to Bree.
I think it was about 20 minutes or so around the Bree area where I finally messed up. So this was one of those movies that as a kid I watched over and over and over again. And it really started because we had Stars, the movie channel, at my mom's house. And I had seen Fellowship of the Ring in the theaters, and I liked it or whatever, but, I wasn't as into it as I later was because it was just the one time that I saw it. And to be honest, I didn't understand a lot of it. So it came on Stars, and it just came on over and over like every other day or so. And I would just turn it on and watch it over and over again. And then it just kind of grew into this. Yes. Yeah. So that's how I knew so much of it.
I mean, how impressed was Becky when you got that far in?
I don't know if she was impressed or
worried.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if it's something that I'm proud of.
Don't act like you're not impressed.
Some people would be impressed.
So we open with the story of the ring, and then how they were created. 9 to the realm of men, 3 to the elves, and was it 7 to the dwarf lords?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and 1 was created in secret. Lord Sauron, the Dark Lord Sauron, created 1 to control them all. 1 ring to rule them all.
And he was a bad dude.
He was. And we kind of touched on this, before the podcast. What do you think Sauron looked like before he put the metal helmet on and he's this big, tall, metal creature? I mean, do you think he...
From some of the artwork that I have seen... and different things like that, he sort of almost looked like an elf. He had very long hair. He's like a magical being, almost like an elf or a wizard or something like that. Yeah.
So not like a human like me and you. But
no, I don't think so.
Something maybe like Elrond, just a little darker.
Perhaps.
Possibly. All right, so he creates this ring to control them all, and the last alliance of men and elves have to fight him.
Right.
To save Middle-earth, basically. And I actually enjoyed this. I enjoyed this opening. It wasn't so action-packed that you didn't see story. There was just enough fighting. And the story of Isildur and, the king dying and Isildur picking up the broken blade.
One important theme throughout this entire trilogy, and I would say especially in this first one, is, redemption. Men, they've had really, really strong moments and moments where they've done great heroic things, and then
Yep.
they've had moments where they've hit the bottom and made some bad choices. And Isildur right here, this is a big moment. He's defeating Sauron. He cuts the ring off of his hand, and he takes that ring as a little trophy for himself, right?
Yeah. And he's given the chance to destroy it, but he doesn't.
Here's the fall of man. Men can
Yeah.
be weak. Galadriel said, "The hearts of men are easily corrupted." And
Yes.
this is the start of it right here.
So, and a lot of it this was 2001 when the movie's released, and, years ago when the book's released, and still to this day, the hearts of men are easily corrupted.
Forever.
So after all that, the ring was lost. Isildur keeps it as a trophy, and he's, wants to keep it for himself, the Ring of Power, but karma hits.
The ring had other plans.
Yes.
So the
ring is kind of an entity.
You have to look at the ring as a character in itself.
Yes.
And something that the movie does is the ring kind of whispers sometimes. And if someone's starting to feel like they're tempted by the ring, it might speak their name. Because the ring wants to take people so that it can, or take a hold of people and corrupt them and twist them. But it wants to get back to Sauron. The ring and Sauron are one. So that ring is trying everything it can to get back to him. So, this thing happens where it slips off of Isildur's finger in the river, and he's down there looking for it, and he's seen, because he was invisible, right? So when the ring falls off his finger, they can see him, they shoot him, they kill him.
Yeah.
He's done.
And for how long did it sit at the bottom of that water?
Thousands of years.
2,500
something like
years.
that.
It sat at the bottom of that water until Smeagol, Deagle and Smeagol, find it, and then it finds a new host.
Right.
And it turns good old sweet Smeagol into Gollum, which we'll discuss more later. He's one of my favorite characters.
And then we see, the events of The Hobbit happen, which is a totally separate thing. And then Bilbo has the ring.
Yes.
And he keeps it. And he doesn't really use it too much.
No, he doesn't.
So the only effect it's really having on him is that it's giving him a very long life, and he's not aging. That's one effect.
The way that a normal Hobbit should.
Right, that the ring has on him.
So we get to the Shire.
Right.
Okay, and I gotta say, the Shire alone is some of my favorite visual.
Yeah.
I mean, it's this Celtic, beautiful green area, and it was all filmed in New Zealand. Like 99% of it was filmed in New Zealand, but it's this beautiful area, and I used to always wonder if Shirelings and hobbits and all that were equivalent to today's people, what would they be? And then today it hit me. It was like, I think hobbits would be like our Appalachian people.
No, I think so. And
just very from the earth. And
I wrote down, I basically grew up in the Earth version of the Shire.
Okay,
I really did.
In Union County.
So the Shire is supposed to represent home,
Yes.
And for me, it really does kind of seem like home, because I grew up in this, it's called Sharp's Chapel. Most people have never heard of it. It's like an hour away from Morristown.
Well, now Brad Pitt's character in that movie Inglourious Basterds is from where you grew up.
He's from the local town, where the school was.
Yeah,
Maynardville. And Sharp's Chapel is even farther off from that. But it's
Shire,
like, there's lots of hills, and people have their cows and their farms, and they sit out on the porch.
Shoes.
And they, are peeling vegetables and smoking pipes and, all that kind of thing. So it's really what it was like for me. And everybody knows everybody, and they all like to have a good time. So that's the Shire.
That was the equivalent. I thought it's very Appalachian.
Right.
Like what people, or what younger us saw the Appalachian as, or what Northerners might have seen Appalachian as, is I would look at that as the Shire. So the Shire is in full, they're always farming, they're always living off the land, they're always having a good time.
Peaceful,
smoking
quiet
tobacco,
place.
Peaceful, quiet place. And it's Bilbo's birthday.
111 years
111. And Bilbo is not the main character of this story, but if you read The Hobbit before this, then Bilbo was the main character of that story. And he's turning 111 years old. And so they're getting ready for the party, and Gandalf shows up. And
fun fact, the first time you see Gandalf, he's in the cart, and Frodo jumps in with him, and he says the thing about a wizard is never late, nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to. That was Ian McKellen's legit first day of filming.
Really?
As Gandalf, yeah. And, oddly enough, his next day at work, he filmed his last scene as Gandalf.
In the third movie.
Yeah, he filmed the scene where he's saying goodbye to the hobbits and they're all crying and everything, and he's Gandalf the White there. And so he's like, tomorrow I'm going to go say goodbye to all these hobbits that I've just met. So...
Like, today's schedule, we're going to do scene 2 of movie 2, and then we're going to go do scene 3 of movie 1.
Right.
And then
that's what the filming of that movie was like.
Yeah, that's what it was. It's like a 1.5-year process doing all 3 movies.
All at once.
All at once, and not in chronological order.
Right.
So, that had to be fun. So, basically, Gandalf shows up at Bilbo's.
And, if speaking of The Hobbit, if you think about the difference in the scene right here, Gandalf knocking on the door and Bilbo answering, compared to The Hobbit when Gandalf walks up and sees Bilbo sitting there, Bilbo wants nothing to do with Gandalf and The Hobbit. He's like, okay, well, good morning. Good morning. Go away. And in this one, he's like, oh, Gandalf, I'm so happy to see you. Like,
my old
these
friend.
Guys have been through some stuff together.
Together. And he's talking about, all these people bothering me on my birthday, presents and well wishes. And he's like, I just want to be left alone. I want to see mountains again, Gandalf. Yeah. And you kind of, between their discussion, realize that Bilbo is planning something. He's leaving.
Right.
He's got this big, grand idea to leave the Shire finally. One last adventure. And he's leaving Frodo his house. Everything.
And they talk a little about Frodo, and, it's very clear to Bilbo that Frodo loves home. He wants to stay in the Shire and, hang out and read books. He's not looking for any great big adventure or anything like that, which is what really makes him an unlikely hero. But we'll get to that. So they have this big party for Bilbo, and he pulls off this ultimate prank. He gets up on the stage, and he says, all right, I'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.
He vanishes.
And he puts we know that he put the ring on. They don't. So he puts the ring on, he disappears, and he sneaks out. He has one last encounter with Gandalf. And there's one of those jump moments that I hate in movies, the jump scares. When he has the ring on the floor there, and Gandalf goes to reach for it, and the eye pops up. Oh,
yeah. Before we move forward, actually one of my favorite moments is at the party.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's the fireworks scene with Merry and Pippin.
Yeah.
They're trying to shoot off the granddaddy firework, the finale. And, you've got that whole back and forth. Mary's like, you're supposed to put it in the ground. It's like, hey. Pippin's like, it is in the ground. And
it was your idea.
You had a fun fact is that they had to do take after take of Billy Boyd, who plays Pippin. He kept screaming when
you can hear it. Yeah, it's this really loud, high-pitched scream that he does.
Billy Boyd, who plays him, just could not stop screaming.
They kept saying, try it without the scream. Don't do the scream.
It was a legitimate,
and he couldn't do it.
Scream that he would let out. But back at Bilbo's house,
Bag End,
he has left the ring, and that visual of when he leaves the ring. He just drops it to the floor.
Oh, yeah.
Normally a ring would, roll around, kind of like a quarter or something. But this just, whoa.
Boom, like dropping a brick.
Yes, and it really shows that visualization of how heavy
the ring is.
This ring is.
And when Bilbo walks out the door and he takes a deep breath, it's like he's a new man. This huge weight has been lifted off of his shoulders, and he can just start all over. That's kind of what it seems like.
It really is, he's just lets out a sigh and goes, I've thought of an end to my book, and he starts singing his way to wherever he wants to go.
Right.
And Frodo shows up right after Bilbo's left, and Gandalf's like, he's left you Bag End and all of his possessions, but
and also this terrible thing
needs to stay in an envelope. Keep it secret, keep it safe. I've got to go talk to someone. I'll see you later.
He comes back. He tells Frodo this terrifying story about how this ring is like the
worst thing on the face of the planet.
It's the Middle-earth weapon of mass destruction.
Yes, exactly.
And it is in poor little Frodo's hands, and now we got
to get you to first go to the Village of Bree. I'll meet you there.
He's got the job of carrying that thing.
Yes, and before he leaves, though, we get that whole, Sam's dropping Eves.
Yes.
And that's another favorite scene.
We meet our dear friend Sam.
Sam
is an old soul, because there's the scene where they're all hanging out in the pub, and they're singing songs and dancing. But Sam's over there.
The old guys.
Yeah, he's hanging with the old dudes, hearing, stories and all the gossip about what's going on out in the world, and,
He's not
everybody
dancing
should just
and partying.
Yeah, everybody should just stay out of trouble and whatever.
Just be a hobbit.
Yeah.
And you've met Sean Astin, who plays Samwise.
He's a very,
Sweet
very
guy.
nice guy.
Yeah. And for those of you who haven't seen this, it's Rudy from the movie Rudy and Bob from Stranger Things 2.
Right.
So Gandalf sees him sneaking around. He throws him into the house and he's like, "You've been dropping Eve so much, Gumsy." And he's like, basically having to recruit Sam in. Sam doesn't want to be turned into anything unnatural.
Yeah, but even if he didn't threaten him, though, I think he still would have gone along.
Yeah, and, he cares for Mr. Frodo. And so basically he sends them on their way. And while they're on their way to the village of Bree, which is where he sends him, he goes to talk to the head of his order, Saruman.
Yeah.
Saruman the White.
Yeah.
The Wise, as he calls him.
Funny fact, or not funny, but cool fact, in the books, when we realize that Saruman is really a bad guy, he says that he's Saruman of many colors.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I think they should have put that in the movie.
I wish they had.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
The Saruman of many colors. So they have their own little fight. He realizes that his best friend of Lord knows how long has betrayed them and joined Sauron's ranks. And, Christopher Lee can never really be a good guy.
I don't think so.
If you haven't read the books, the minute you see him as Saruman, you're like, this guy's bad.
Yeah.
It's his voice, the way he carries himself. So he betrays Gandalf. They have this old man stick fight.
No!
And he basically sends him to the top of his tower.
Yeah.
In exile. And he's elected a way of pain, as he says it. And so then we flash over, and they're at Farmer Maggot's crops, and they run into Merry and Pippin.
Troublemakers.
Yes. But I love them together.
Of course.
Great. And basically that brings them into the fold, and we encounter our first Black Rider.
Yeah.
And
he's down there kind of sniffing around because he can sense the ring is close by. Frodo almost puts it on, and that would have been bad news.
Sam saves him from putting it on.
That would have been like end of the movie right there.
Yeah. Oh, by
it's
the way,
over.
we lost. But I gotta tell you, man, I probably would have jumped out of that hole because when he's sniffing, he's making all these nasty bugs crawl all over him, spiders and centipedes, and I'd have probably lost it.
It would have been tough.
But they send a distraction and they get away, and they get to Bree.
Right.
And we get to the village, and it's a rough crowd.
Yeah, they walk into the Prancing Pony, like the inn there, and it automatically made me think of the cantina scene in Star Wars because there's all these questionable looking, rough people, hanging on there.
And stuff like that. Speaking of Rangers, we do see Strider in the corner smoking his pipe, watching the hobbits. He knows who they are. He's a friend of Gandalf's.
He knows what's going on.
Yes. And something happens, and Frodo accidentally puts on the ring.
Mm-hmm. He falls, and it falls out of his pocket and slides on his finger. Because Pippin's over there running his mouth, telling everybody, "Hey, my buddy Frodo over there." And
he's my cousin.
They're looking for him. So,
and so he sees the eye while he's in the void.
Yeah,
and it scares him out of the ring.
Right, because every time that you put the ring on, you sort of enter that world and the void, the shadow realm, you might say, and when it's put on, Sauron is automatically drawn to it. His eye goes to where this is happening, and anyone who's sort of a servant of Sauron, they're drawn to it too. So this is bringing the ring rates
to Bree.
And
so Strider grabs him after he takes the ring back off. Strider grabs him, take him up to his room. The hobbits follow, and there's this, "You can't wait for the wizard. You have to go with me."
Gives him a good talking to.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of, messing around here. And he's like, "This is serious business, buddy. You can't
You don't know what you carry.
Yeah.
You don't know the evil that you carry and the people that are after you. You can no longer wait for the wizard, Frodo." And this basically brings Aragorn into the fold and says, "You're coming with me.
Right.
We're going to Rivendell." And which is the house of Lord Elrond. Played by Hugo Weaving.
Yes.
And if you haven't seen Lord of the Rings, you would know him as basically Agent Smith from The Matrix. Mm-hmm. In the Shia LaBeouf series of Transformers, he voiced Megatron.
Yeah, he did. V for Vendetta.
Oh, yes, he was V. So during the trek with Strider to Rivendell,
the Red Skull.
Oh, he is the Red Skull. The first Red Skull.
Right.
He's not in Infinity War and Endgame.
Right.
That's actually the guy from Walking Dead. So during this trek, he gives them some swords, I guess just to protect themselves, and we get to Amansul, the watchtower.
Weathertop.
Weathertop, basically. And, Frodo's asleep finally, because before that we saw, I won't sleep much. But this is Frodo finally getting some sleep, and Sam, Merry, and Pippin are recklessly having a picnic
Hobbits
with
like
a
to eat.
bonfire and being loud and we've got tomatoes and mushrooms and we've got all this and nice crispy bacon. And Frodo freaks out and he's like, put out the fire, you fools. Well, that attracts the Black Riders. And so we get this terrifying scene. And I'm pretty sure that it was a background of yours for a little bit. Like, maybe on your laptop or Xbox or something. It was the Hobbits surrounded by the... Was it you that had that? But it might have been...
couldn't tell you.
I swear I've seen it on someone's background.
It's a cool image.
It was the image of the four of them with their swords out and the Black Riders surrounding them at Weathertop.
Sure.
So they attempt to ward them off, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, and then poor Frodo puts the ring on, which was a bad idea.
Terrible idea.
And the Witch King, the leader of the Nazgul, the Black Riders, he stabs him with this blade, and this blade can, it's almost like a poisonous blade, and the pieces of it fall apart in your body, and they start trying to cut towards your heart. Right?
Turn you into a wraith.
And they want to turn you into a wraith, so he would be similar to the ring wraiths.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is bad.
Morgul blade.
Yeah.
And so it's luckily but unfortunately terrible and good timing at the same time. Strider shows up to save them with a torch and a sword.
30 seconds late, man.
You're a little late. And I have written in my notes here, nice throw, bro. At the end when he throws the torch into the Nazgul's
square in the face.
Square in the face. So after all this, we get this we're at this flash over to Isengard scene again, and Gandalf's on top of Isengard Tower. It's raining. He's weak.
Orthanc,
yes, Orthanc. And a moth comes up and talks to him. The little moth flies. And he just talks to him and sends him on his way. And, through that we get this vision of the moth flying through the caverns of Isengard, and we're seeing what Saruman is up to. He's basically growing an army and killing trees and burning them and, creating weapons for Sauron. Build me an army.
Yeah.
And it's just the wildest scene. They're digging these Uruk-hai out of the ground.
Yeah, they breed them in these little mud pits.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're a cross.
They're a cross of orcs and goblins.
Yes.
And they turn out to be these big, huge, strong... it's an orc, basically. They're called Uruk-hai. And what's good about them, for their purposes, is that they can travel in the daytime.
Yes.
And orcs like the dark, so they don't do that, really.
They don't get tired.
Yeah.
They don't get hungry. They just hunt. And so we just get a little view of that. And flashback over to the other company, and we've got Frodo's hurt. He's being poisoned by this blade, and Strider's got him and the other hobbits, and, they're at the trolls that are from the Hobbit. And they don't know what to do, so they're looking for a small weed that'll help and all that. But then an elven rider shows up, and we find out that it's the very beautiful Lady Arwen, played by Liv Tyler, who is the daughter of Aerosmith's frontman, Steven Tyler.
Yes.
She had a Marvel movie. Wasn't she?
She was in the Incredible Hulk. She was in the Mark. No,
Edward Norton.
Edward Norton one.
She was in the Edward Norton one.
She was in the OK Hulk.
The OK Hulk, not the best Hulk, but not the bad Hulk.
Yeah.
And she was in Armageddon.
Yes.
Yes. About the same time this movie came out.
So,
basically, she's found them in the wilderness. I've got to get him to Father, which is Elrond, and he can heal him. and we get this nice little horse chase scene with the Nazgul chasing after her,
Right.
heading to Rivendell. And another one of my favorite visuals is coming up. The dell. You know, the water where
Right.
she crosses the dell and they're like, give up the halfling, she elf. And she does this spell about, and then I wish I could say the spell, but I can't.
Yeah.
And these water horses, like magic, yes, bowl over the Nazgul. Now I remember seeing this in the movie and be like, man, that was easy. They're gone. But no, they come back.
Not so much.
So, I mean, did you enjoy this part? Or?
Yeah, that's a great scene. It's that scene is interesting because there have been several different adaptations of it. Because in the book, it's a totally different elf who is only in that part of the story.
Yes.
In the old 70s animated version, Legolas shows up at that point. And I think Legolas is in the book somewhere too, but they totally cut that other guy out, and now this one is our one.
Fellowship video game, it's Haldir.
Is it really?
Yes, Haldir shows up. And it's just, there's been many different people who are the Elven Rider. And I love that they gave this really awesome power moment to her when they say give up the halfling. She says, if you want him, come and claim him.
Yeah.
And it's just
she's a boss.
She really is, and she's awesome. And so,
and Arwen was not a big character in the books at all.
No.
So
I think they gave her the star because it's Liv Tyler.
Yeah.
Honestly. And maybe they were like, let's put a heroine in here.
I think, this story needed a good love story, Yep. So that's why she's important. That's one of the reasons why she's important.
Yeah.
Is for that love story with herself and Aragorn that lasts throughout the entire trilogy. So we needed that.
So we get to Rivendell.
Rivendell is such a cool place.
Man.
If I could choose to live in one place in Middle Earth, it would be Rivendell.
Absolutely.
I would just chill out on the porch and read books and watch the waterfall and everything.
Oh, and it's
and the elves
visually,
have
it's beautiful.
Really good food and everything.
And they sing beautifully.
Sign me up.
Absolutely. And we don't just find Elrond. Elrond saves Frodo. Gandalf's there.
Rode in on that eagle, son.
Rode in on that eagle. And, he's telling Frodo the story, and basically the weird moth that he speaks to goes and finds Gwahir, the Lord of the Eagles. These giant, massive eagles. And he saved him from Isengard and brought him all the way to Rivendell.
Right.
And, not just that, but who else is in Rivendell?
Boromir from Gondor, and we have Legolas, the elf. He's the son of
So basically,
Thranduil.
The council, if you will.
Right.
They've gathered a council.
People from all over Middle-earth who are representing the free people.
Yes.
And, Legolas, I was saying he's the son of Thranduil, he was kind of
a jerk.
Kind of a jerk in the Hobbit movies. He was the Elf King there. Gimli, who's the son of one of the dwarves in The Hobbit as well.
Yes.
And they don't trust each other because there's a long history of the dwarves and the elves not liking each other. They've had wars here and there, I believe. So it's kind of for them.
I think that goes back to a lot of mythos, not just Lord of the Rings, but I mean, if you were to play, say, World of Warcraft, elves and dwarves don't get along.
Right, sure.
If you were to play any of those mythical games, there's always this underlying elves and dwarves don't like each other.
Yeah, and they make sure to point that out. They're a little snippy with one another here and there and all that. So that's what makes their friendship later on that much more special. Because we know they started out not being buddies. And then they become very close.
And during this before this council starts, Bilbo is in Rivendell, and he's old.
Yeah.
Just in the short time since he left the Shire, he's aged years.
Without the ring, he's starting to sort of waste away now.
And it's this kind of sad, cute moment at first. He's like, oh, Frodo. Yeah. And it kind of also shows that it's been a long time.
Yeah.
Between him leaving the Shire and them getting to Rivendell.
In the book, there's 17 years difference there.
So. And so we get the council, and we've got, dwarves, elves, men, and basically they are deciding what we need to do.
And everybody has a different idea of what to do. There are people saying we need to destroy it. We have Boromir's having these nightmares about, basically the fall of Gondor, his home, the downfall of men.
Of men.
Yeah. And, he sees that, because his city is like right across a river from Mordor, which is, the bad place where all the bad guys are. So they're very close, and they're constantly at war, and Gondor's holding Mordor off from the rest of the world. And he's having these dreams about the end of all that, and he just wants to save his people. He has the best of intentions. He says, let's take this ring, let's use it, and let's go whoop Sauron's butt, right?
Yeah, but, that old adage, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Right.
So through those good intentions, the ring would slowly destroy them.
He doesn't really understand what the ring is and what it can do at this point.
He just thinks it's a magical ring that can help.
Right. And so, they're all arguing and fussing and fighting and everything, and Frodo steps up and says, you know what? I'll take care of this. This was left to me. This is my burden to bear. Point me in the direction I need to go in.
Yeah.
And let's go.
And so this scene sees us forming the Fellowship. So I thought we would take this time to break down each member of that Fellowship. Right. Not every character, just the 9.
Yeah.
All right, and kind of talk about what they bring to the table, what they represent, stuff like that. And I thought, who better to start with than the ring bearer himself, Frodo.
Yeah, so Frodo is, like you said, the ring bearer. I think he sort of represents like purity and innocence. He is this, good little lad minding his own business in the Shire. He loves home, he loves his friends, he loves life. Mm-hmm. And now he's suddenly plunged into this terrible, terrible thing. But he's brave enough to say, it's everybody's problem, but it was really handed down to me. It's my job to take care of this.
Well, almost like somebody has to bear it.
Yeah.
And you all are going to argue.
Yeah.
So somebody has to do this thing.
And hobbits, we found, are pretty resilient to the effects of the ring.
Yes.
Not immune, but
resilient.
It takes a lot longer for them
and I think it's due to their cheery demeanor.
I think so.
Their constant drinking and smoking of the pipe weed and just happy-go-luckiness. They
live their best life for sure.
And he's really like proof that even the smallest of people can change the world.
Right.
Sam, the best friend.
Sam is, if I had one word to describe Sam, it's loyal.
Yes.
He is loyalty always, through and through. He's, no matter what, he's there to help Frodo at any personal cost, And he turns out to be, as we know, the true hero of the story.
Absolutely.
In my opinion.
Absolutely. Merry.
I sort of grouped Merry and Pippin together.
Yeah.
Because you kind of have to. They go together. I know I said innocence for Frodo, but it applies to them too. Innocence.
Almost an obliviousness.
They're just living their best life, having fun, and they don't think about all the dangers of the world beyond the Shire. It's like,
they don't.
Whatever.
But their arcs are almost also represent a growth.
Right.
And finding your place and your bravery.
Yes.
You definitely would group them together. And the performances are great.
Sure.
So we then move on to Gandalf.
Gandalf is wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's what I have too.
We said a long time ago something about Dumbledore, and I said anytime Dumbledore was around, I felt like everything's going to be all right.
Absolutely.
And that's how I felt about Gandalf. If Gandalf is there, no worries, because he can take care of anything that's going to come their way. So, wisdom. He knows everything.
Absolutely. Aragorn, Strider, as he's called in this movie.
He's the leader.
Bravery.
He makes the decisions. He is able to think on his feet. He represents, I talked earlier about that theme of the fall of man and the greed of man and redemption and all that. And
he's sort of bearing this, my ancestors destroyed this whole
He has this fear because he's the true king.
Yes.
But he's avoiding that. He doesn't want that. And he knows what power can do to people, and he's sort of ashamed of what his ancestors did.
What his ancestors did. Look at that bloodline. Look at what it did.
In the end, he's the one that redeems man.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Legolas. the elf.
I grouped Legolas and Gimli together as well. They, of course, represent their people. Legolas represents the elves, Gimli the dwarves, of course. And I talked about how they didn't get along so well. But they're able to put their differences aside for the common good.
Yes.
No matter how they feel about each other at first, they say, I'll go with you on this journey. Yeah. We're here for the same purpose. Let's make it happen. And they form this very strong bond, unity.
Yes,
right.
And I like to look at Legolas is the insight, and Gimli's the muscle.
Yeah,
Legolas will strategize, and Gimli will do it.
Legolas has got that finesse and the quickness, and Gimli's like just pow, just strength. There's raw
everything
power.
Up. And that leaves us to he's not a prince of Gondor, the steward's son.
Son of the steward.
The son of the steward of Gondor. Boromir
leads the armies.
Know him as Ned Stark in Game of Thrones. Sean Bean plays Boromir.
Love Sean Bean.
And I think he represents the self-salvation of man.
He's the one that represents men. I mean, I talked about Aragorn. He's the one who leads men out of that, but he represents this is where men are now. We're easily corrupted. Mm-hmm. Temptation.
It's all good intentions, I swear.
Yeah.
But he represents what man became.
Yeah.
And so, we see that forming of the fellowship. The whole, you have my axe, you have my bow, I'll be there, I'll follow you. And the fellowship is formed. And before they leave, we see Bilbo give Frodo Sting, his sword, and his mithril vest. And they're on their way. And their first stop, they're supposed to go over a mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Caracas.
I can't pronounce that one.
I can't pronounce it. But actually, before they get to that mountain, is your favorite scene.
Oh, yeah. The
epic.
That music, like that we just shared with you, there's the shot of them coming across this hill, and there's like a big rock on the left, and they're walking past it, and we see all 9 members of the Fellowship. I don't know what it is about it.
It's almost like a WWE-esque entrance.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, Fellowship, go get him, take it to Sauron, yeah, brother. So that was just my favorite moment.
Yeah, it was beautifully done. Yeah. So they're hiking through the snowy mountains, and it's not going well because it's a big snowy mountain, first of all. Yeah. And we see that first image of Boromir tempted. Frodo falls down the mountain a little bit and drops the ring off his neck, and Boromir's holding it and just staring at it. And he gives this so much fuss over such a little thing.
Pretty much, yeah.
And Aragorn, for the first time, give the ring back. I care not. And he gives it to him. So that's the first time we truly...
You see Aragorn...
It's probably the second time, actually, because you see the temptation during the Fellowship forming. Mm-hmm. Give it to Gondor, and this is the second time we've seen, man, Boromir's already...
And you see Aragorn, he's got his hand on the handle of his sword, like, I'm ready to do what's got to be done. Because he understands that this ring makes people do crazy things, right?
Absolutely.
And Boromir is not a bad guy, okay?
No, he's not.
He's not. It's the ring. Yeah. And the fact that he's so desperate, he just wants to save his people. He knows this is a war we're not going to win, and here we are taking this ultimate weapon. We're taking it and throwing it away. That's ridiculous.
We're destroying the one thing that could help us,
but he doesn't.
And we're relying on a halfling to do it.
He doesn't yet understand, though.
So the journey over the mountain is hindered by Saruman. He's saying some spell all the way from his tower in Isengard and destroys the top of the mountain, where they cannot pass. Even though Gimli has been saying, let's go through the mines, Gandalf knows that's a terrible decision. And lets Frodo, let the ring bearer decide. What should we do since we can't go this way? We'll go through the mines.
Dang it.
One place.
That's not what you were supposed to say, Frodo.
I did not think you'd say that.
Right.
So that brings us to Moria.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot happens in just a little area of the door.
Mm-hmm.
There's this sea monster that attacks them, and they realize that Moria has been sacked, and it's a tomb, and everybody's dead. And
Gimli's telling him, we're going to go in here and have a big party. All my cousins are in here. And then he finds out that all his homies are dead, and they're standing on their skulls. So that's not good. And then they have no choice but to go on because the big octopus monster outside crashes the door down on them. So they have to go on through.
So this was the place where we get to see a first little glimpse of Gollum.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize that he didn't escape Mordor.
He was set loose.
He was set loose to spy on them. And you don't truly get Gollum's performance till the sequel.
Yeah.
But we do know that he comes back into play, and he's voiced by Andy Serkis. It's fantastic. So they're going through Moria, and they come upon the tomb of Balin. And if you've read or watched The Hobbit, we love Balin.
Balin was one of he was the oldest of the dwarves.
He was the nicest.
Had the
of
white
dwarves.
hair. He was very friendly to Bilbo in the movies and all that. But that's his tomb there in Moria, and they find where the dwarves were kind of holed up in there, and all the goblins killed them.
Yeah.
And as Gandalf is reading this journal that one of the dwarves was writing right when he died, poor Pippin knocks this skeleton down a well, makes this big racket,
Full of a took.
and so now they're about to get bombarded with all the bad guys
And a cave troll.
and a troll, and we have this big battle
Cool
in
battle.
in that little room. They win, of course. Frodo gets stabbed, but luckily for us, he's got that mithril, that
vest.
metal, that scale vest on that Bilbo gave him, and it's very, very strong. So it takes a lot to get through that.
Yeah.
And
It's harder than a dragon scale.
right,
They
and
said.
so he made it through that. We go on, of course, to the scene where they're running down the steps.
Yes.
They're trying to get out of there because Gandalf realizes, oh no, there's this big monster
We've
in here.
woken a creature. The Balrog.
Right. So they're running, trying to get out. And again, this is probably the most iconic scene from the movie, I would
I would say this is the most iconic scene.
Hey, do you know what I say to kids in my class who don't turn in their homework?
What?
Just like that.
You say it just like that.
I do.
You
I do.
strike the ground.
Yeah.
with
And
a
they get
pencil.
scared and then they do their homework. No, I'm just kidding.
So that is definitely the most iconic scene. Maybe the most iconic line in that movie.
I can't think of anything that would top it.
That would
to
top
be
it.
honest.
You shall not pass. Everyone knows it. And it sets up such a heartbreaking scene, though, because then he follows it up with "Fly, you fools," as he falls down a cavern. You know, you think he's destroyed the Balrog. He broke and the Balrog falls, but at the last second, he whips that fire whip, and it latches onto Gandalf's leg and pulls him down with him.
Yeah.
And Frodo's scream, Gandalf!
Right.
It was just, wow.
Well, like I said earlier, when Gandalf's around, I feel like everything's going to be okay. So now,
You're like, we're screwed.
well, that was fun while it lasted,
Stop
guys.
the movie, we're not going to make it.
Yeah. And when then right after this, they leave the mines finally, and they all run out of there,
And they're in the hills.
they stop to sort of collect themselves and
They're
mourn
all
for a minute.
bawling their eyes out.
Yeah, it's so
Sam
sad.
And
And then like you look at Legolas kind of looking around, and he has this look on his face like, I don't get it, And if you think about it, elves are immortal. I mean,
yeah,
you can kill an elf, of course, but they live forever.
yeah.
If that doesn't happen.
Legolas is older
So-
than Gimli and
He obviously knows that this type of thing happens, and he's probably experienced it to some extent. But the grief that he's seeing and the sorrow
Yes.
and all that, that's not something he's
But
used
they
to
also,
seeing.
I think, as elves, aren't really cultured with emotions.
Right.
They're just kind of
Yeah, that's true. That's valid.
emotionless, and they don't cry.
Yeah.
But he still loved Gandalf,
Of course.
and he's sad.
Everybody
but it's
did.
like he's almost like, I don't cry. I don't know how to cry.
It's an unusual experience for him
And it's
to
very
feel something
awkward to
like
watch that
and to
sometimes.
see all that happening around you.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what to do.
But we finally get to Lothlorien, and we somewhat feel safe within these woods.
Sure. But Galadriel's pretty.
She's creepy. Man.
Yeah, I didn't trust her.
At first I didn't. I was like, she is.
I mean, she's like invading their minds and talking to them telepathically and all
Yeah.
that stuff, and
Giving them visions.
some of 'em-
seeing what what their secrets are, and it's like, we didn't give you permission for
some
that.
of them look very uncomfortable.
Boromir.
Boromir especially is like,
terrified. He was just
Dude's sitting there having a panic attack, and she's just staring at him.
staring at him all, and Kate Blanchett, what a performance!
She can do anything.
And she goes on to Thor Ragnarok, of course, And they do that whole lament scene to Gandalf. And, we were talking about Legolas being emotionless, and the hobbits can't understand what the elves are singing about. And he's like, oh no, it's a lament to Gandalf. What are they saying? I cannot tell you. For my heart is still grieving.
For me, the grief is still too near.
Yeah, but he's not his emotion, but he's grieving.
Because that's an elf for
That's
you.
an elf.
Yeah.
And we get this really cool scene while we're there with Frodo and Galadriel. Again, a creepy scene. Because she doesn't know Couth, I don't think.
No.
She doesn't pick up on social cues.
She has this magic mirror that you can look into, and it shows you things that are, things that were, and some things that have not yet come to pass. And she invites Frodo to look into the mirror, of course, and he sees basically
what could happen.
What could happen if he fails on this quest.
Yeah, and he sees a Shire destroyed and his friends being hurt and killed.
Right. And he says, okay, whoa, hold up. This is too much for me. Here.
You take the
Why don't you do it? And then Galadriel freaks out for a second, but
yeah, it's a moment.
Realizes, okay, that's not me. Let me collect myself.
Yeah.
I've passed this test.
You need to take the ring.
You are going to do this now. And
it's funny is like, as they're leaving Lothlorien the next day, they're all getting these gifts. They're like, Oprah,
Sorry,
like,
I invaded your mind, guys. Sorry, I
You
freaked
get a
you
gift.
out. Here's some swords and stuff.
And she gives out each individual gift to represent a person and their, I guess, what they'll need in their travels.
Yeah.
I won't go into detail of what each gift is because you should watch it, especially the extended, because every gift is given in the extended.
Yeah.
And they're on their way to what's it called?
Amon Hen.
Amon Hen.
That's the next stop.
The next stop. And this is the scene of my favorite battle in the movie.
Me too.
It's theatrically, it's cool. Cinematography-wise, it's great. And it's just really like in levels. Mm-hmm. And this is also the site where we get the last temptation of Boromir.
Right.
And it's kind of crazy Tolkien threw in like these 3 temptations of Boromir's. Almost biblical, like you will deny me 3 times before, And I don't know if Tolkien did that on purpose, but kind of like that was his 3 temptations before his redemption.
I think after Galadriel, was talking to him, he kept saying, I heard her voice inside my head, and she talked about,
the fall of Gondor.
Yeah. And that makes him a little even, more desperate.
Now give me the ring.
I really got to get this ring. So
he goes after Frodo a 3rd time, and Frodo, he trips. Frodo goes invisible again with the ring, and he's running away, and I probably would have made it a little bit bigger deal, but he just slips on some leaves and hits his head a little bit, and that seems to knock him back into
Boromir.
I've done the wrong thing. Frodo, I'm so sorry, but...
Well, I think when the ring leaves his presence, and kind of like, think about Bilbo, we said he took that big deep breath, and it was like, I'm a new man. Now that I'm rid of that,
that is
it
true.
Changed him physically,
and when Frodo
too.
got far enough away, Boromir's like, oh, crap.
Because it could be that he's trying to fight that feeling, those urges and those outbursts that he's having. And then when the ring goes and he's just like, and that makes him kind of weak. And maybe that's why he falls.
That's true. That's a good point.
Big sudden transition there.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
Like slamming on the brakes of your car really hard.
Oh, that's true. And it jerks you into a certain direction.
Right.
So Frodo runs and he gets to kind of like this watchtower area and sees the eye again, freaks himself out, takes the ring off, falls. We get a little scene with him and Aragorn. And it's Aragorn's scene with Frodo basically realizing he needs to go off on his own.
Yeah.
That the fellowship traveling together is actually not the smartest idea.
It's too risky, probably, because of what this ring can do to really good people.
Yes, exactly. And he's less tempted by it than the other normal men. And they're small. He's smaller. And it's kind of like you said earlier, we were talking about it. You're like, yeah, the fellowship was a great idea, but if you see a bunch of halflings, an elf, a man, or 2 men, an elf and a dwarf and a wizard, strolling
through Mordor
towards Mordor.
Guys, I think something's going on over here. We should check this out.
Right. And Frodo kind of has this like, I need to go off on my own.
Mm-hmm. And hobbits are really light on their feet, so,
And small.
they're kind of relying on the hope that he can sneak in there.
Sneak into Mordor.
That's the idea.
But his sword starts to turn blue. And the thing about Sting is when orcs are around, it turns blue. Mm-hmm. And Aragorn sees that.
Because it's an elvish weapon, and the elves are able to put magic in their swords and all that.
They can kind of imbue magic properties into their weapons.
Sure.
Yeah, I learned that term from a video game. Nice. Imbue.
See, video games are educational.
They are. And then starts our favorite battle scene. The Uruk-hai have found them at Amon Hen, and Aragorn's like, run.
Yeah.
And Frodo takes off, but Aragorn starts fighting. And this scene, and then Legolas and Gimli show up, and they're shooting arrows and throwing axes and slicing and
I think what I like about it is the fact that all the other battles that we see, it's the orcs and the goblins, and they're kind of small and they're hunched over. And when they're attacking, it's like an ocean wave just crashing into them, and it's hard to tell what's going on. But when they're fighting the Uruk-hai, these are, they're like the same size or bigger than them.
Yeah.
And, they're really actually having combat, like they're having dueling and all that stuff.
Actual technique.
And Legolas has his big kill streak there. He shoots like 6 or 7 of them all at once.
Now watching it, like I'm in my head, I'm like double kill, triple kill,
right,
kill-tacular,
racking up those points.
But what's really cool about the battle is all this craziness and all this battle is going around Frodo running down a hill, trying to get out of there, and so like Aragorn's fighting over here, and Legolas is fighting over here, and Gimli's fighting, and then the camera's rolling down the hill with Frodo, and he hides for a little bit, and then there's more fighting over here, and then Merry and Pippin are hiding.
Chaos.
And it's just chaos, but it's visually it's cool because it's physically going down the hill all while this battle's happening, and it's telling each story of each battle.
And in this chaos, it's how they all get separated.
Yes, which sets up the sequel.
Yeah.
So Frodo gets away because Merry and Pippin distract the Uruks, and these Uruk-hai are about to kill Merry and Pippin, and redemption moment.
Yes.
Boromir finally sees, and he comes in, and they've subtly been building a relationship with the three of them, Boromir, Merry, and Pippin, throughout the whole movie. And
we saw him training with them.
Yes,
earlier.
and he grabs them in Moria to save them. He's very worried about the cold.
He rode in the boat with them after Lorien.
And he saves them, and he is just fighting them off until the lead Uruk-hai comes up and shoots him with an arrow. But that doesn't stop him.
And he keeps going.
And that's another favorite visual of mine. Just that die-hard redemption, like the way the light's flickering through the leaves as he fights. He's fighting, and then another arrow, boom. Then he gets up, and he keeps fighting, and Merry and Pippin are just watching this happen.
Do you know what it makes me think of? Do you remember in the old Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man 2, Doc Ock says, "I will not die a monster"?
Yes.
That's sort of like Boromir here. He's like, after he has his confrontation with Frodo and he tries to like physically take the ring from him, once that's over, he's like, man, I've really messed up. This is not me. This is a terrible, terrible thing. Yeah. And he's going to do whatever it takes to redeem himself, to show, I'm not a monster. I'm going to make sure that I
am a good person.
Right. I'm going to make sure that whatever needs to happen for Frodo to get out here and for us to win this, I'm going to make it happen. Yeah. I'm going to protect everybody.
Absolutely. And it's really a beautiful death.
Yeah.
Story-wise, visual-wise.
Nobody dies like Sean Bean.
No, they do not. No. I think the only movie I've seen that he hasn't died in was National Treasure.
I thought he did.
In that.
Oh, okay. I thought he did die in that. I thought he fell through a bunch of floorboards or something.
No, his lackey did.
Oh, okay.
But he gets arrested at the end.
Right.
I was like, hey, better than dead.
That's one.
But, sadly we see Boromir shot up with arrows. And Aragorn does come to the rescue and has this cool little epic fight with the main Uruk-hai and kills him.
Mm-hmm. Chops his head clean off. And there's this sad farewell to Boromir. And the line, Boromir and him are talking about
Gondor, and he would have liked to have seen it. And Boromir says to him, he says, "I would have followed you to the end, my brother, my captain, my king."
Mm-hmm.
And that's Boromir saying, "I see it now. You are the true king of Gondor, and I would have followed you. You are a leader, Aragorn."
Yeah.
And we kind of made a joke about this earlier, but kind of to remember Boromir, Aragorn takes his, like, his gauntlets
greaves.
off.
Yeah.
He takes his greaves off and off of his dead body and puts them on him.
Yeah.
Just kind of like, thanks, man.
Yeah, it's meant to be a symbolic, like, I'm carrying Boromir with me on this journey, but it was kind of like, I've been eyeing that armor since
since Rivendell, brother. You know, those are cool. Hope you don't die.
Right.
But it really was a sad farewell. And after that farewell, we see Frodo leaving on a boat, and Sam is like, "Mr. Frodo!"
Yeah.
And he jumps in the water to follow him,
Mm-hmm.
but Sam can't swim.
Poor fella. But he's trying.
He's trying.
Looks like he can't even doggy paddle. He just sinks like a rock.
Well, he's a big boy.
Yeah.
Loves to eat. And so he starts to drown. Like, if Frodo's just watching it for a second, just like, "Sam, stop. Please stop. Sam, stop. You can't swim." And there's this pretty image of him just drowning. And then, of course, Frodo saves him.
Yeah.
And we get that cool line, "I made a promise, Frodo, don't you leave him, Samwise Gamgee, and I don't mean to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean to." And so the Fellowship, as quick as it was formed, is dissipated.
Right.
Frodo and Sam are seen leaving on the other side of the shore, going towards Emyn and
Big bunch of rocks, in
big
other words.
bunch of sharp razor
And
rocks.
Mount Doom looks like it's really, really close. Like, maybe we'll be there in a couple of days or so, but we still got 2 more movies to go.
And of course, the trio of Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli have decided we will save Merry and Pippin. They've been abducted by the other Uruk-hai. We can't let them die.
Yeah, and they're going to just leg it across Middle Earth, chasing after the Uruk-hai.
Pull a ranger.
People make those jokes about, the Lord of the Rings movies, it's like 12 hours of people running. It's like, this is where that really comes from.
No, this really is.
Yeah.
Sure, of course that's what they did. You know.
And that's
And that's what ended it, is Sam and Frodo walking down some sharp razory rocks. And I gotta tell you, man, when we first saw this in theaters, I was with my friend Caleb, and we didn't know yet that it was going to be 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, you didn't know.
So we're
that
sitting
the Lord
in
of
the
the Rings
theater,
was.
and the credits roll after them walking, and I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
It just immediately like, well, do they get there? You know? And Caleb's like, "No, man, there's 2 other movies going to come out. You've got to read the books." What? I was like, they're not just going to feed me everything that happens after this? So it kind of leaves that hook.
Yeah.
There's a second one coming, you know. But overall, I know that was a very, very long and very deep dive into the Fellowship. So what are some of your final thoughts? You know, like some visuals, some moments.
Well, we talked about I loved them all walking over the hill with the music playing. This is my favorite of the 3 movies, and I think what I love about it is that all the characters are together. This story has them all on their journey, the beginning of their journey, you know. And then the next 2 movies, they're all separated, and we see different stories. Sort of like how Game of Thrones is. They're all split up and everything. And I like when they're all together. So.
Yeah, and it kind of adds that they're all together. It's safe.
Yeah,
you know, nobody's left out. And visually, at the time, man, it was a beautiful movie. Because
not even at the time. Now too.
Now too.
It holds up.
And it holds up between the Shire and Rivendell, and even when the Balrog comes out, it's just beautiful. So, we got some questions from some fans, from other nerds like you and I.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought we'd answer some of them.
Okay.
We'll try. And the first one comes from our buddy Alex. And it's actually a pretty on-the-nose, question. Why didn't the Eagles just fly them straight to Mount Doom?
Because we needed 3 movies, not 1. No, I think the real answer is that they didn't care. They didn't really want to. And Gandalf doesn't call for their help unless it's like super,
Dire
super
need.
desperate, right? Yeah, like, I got to have you at this moment. Plus, like we talked about earlier, the key to making this happen is stealth, going
Yeah.
in quietly. Gandalf flying in on a big eagle is going to
If the
probably...
whole fellowship are on a bunch of big eagles.
Yeah, they're going to notice that. And even if they flew over the very tip top, like, what if they missed and then they can't find it again, you know? So somebody has to actually go through the door of the mountain and go
Yeah.
in there and drop it in. So, yeah, stealth.
Megan asks, is there a better bromance than Legolas and Gimli? Yeah. Josh and Tyler.
Duh.
Moving on. Chase asks, what is your first memory of Lord of the Rings?
I would say when I was in middle school, I got to read The Hobbit, and after that, I was sort of told, like, oh, there's all this extra stuff that goes on after it. And I didn't read it because I was told, like, it's really complicated and, you know, not
Yeah.
something that an 8 or 9-year-old would really...
Oh, no. Yeah.
So I waited a while. But yeah.
My first memory is when I was in 4th grade. It was at my grandmother's house. The old animated...
Yeah.
And it wasn't all 3 of them. It, like, stopped.
It was the first one and most of the second one.
Most of the second. It was weird.
Yeah.
The animation's weird. It's like a specific kind of animation. It's like real but animated. It
Yeah.
wasn't claymation.
It was blended.
Yeah, it was like a blend, and Gollum is weird.
Yeah.
You know?
Everything was a lot different. But I still enjoy that version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't hate it. I was just like, wow, this is so 80s.
Yeah, did you know that Anthony Daniels, C-3PO, is the voice of Legolas in that?
I did not.
And the guy who played Ollivander in Harry Potter, John Hurt, is that his name?
Yes.
He is Aragorn in that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
All I know is Sam's like, oh, yes, Mr. Frodo.
Yeah, they kind of make him this big bumbling idiot,
Yeah.
but Sam's the real deal, though.
Absolutely. Tyler Ray asks, what was the most emotional moment in the first movie for you all?
Sam and Frodo at the boat.
Oh, yeah. When he's like, I'm coming with you.
Yeah.
For me, I still always tear up at Boromir's death. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's a good part, too.
It just, that redemption story is always something that hits hard with me.
Yeah.
Our friend David Horton, host of Johnny Has the Keys, asks, do you think it had an anticlimactic ending? Was there enough of a hook or too much of one? For instance, did you feel it was a complete movie?
Yes. And I think, unlike you when you saw it the first time,
Yeah.
most people know there's going to
Yeah.
be more to it.
Well, I mean, it did hook me. I
Yeah.
was like, well, what's next?
No, I thought it was just right.
Yeah. Okay. And he also followed up with, did you feel there was too much CGI?
No.
I felt like there was not too
Yeah.
much. Now, this, easily could be pointed towards the direction of where we are now, where there is too much CGI.
Yeah, I mean, and if you think that that the Lord of the Rings had too much CG, look at the Hobbit trilogy, where
Oh,
it was
gosh.
a whole lot more, and I
Yeah.
think that made it not as good.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it hurt
It takes away from the story.
because you
and
go in
the
expecting
realness of it.
the Lord of the Rings like
Yeah.
the same, and it's not.
Absolutely. Darren asks, how much of Lord of the Rings influences Game of Thrones?
A lot of it,
I'd have to say, without Lord of the Rings, you don't have it.
probably not.
Without Lord of the Rings, there is no Game of Thrones. You can ask Old Man Martin, but I can guarantee you that he drew a lot from Lord of the Rings.
I would think so.
In Tolkien's universe. So I would say most of it. Allison asks, how do you feel about Elijah Wood as Frodo? I personally did not enjoy it. You go first, Josh.
I I get it. I see what you're saying, because he's very whiny a lot of times, and it seems like he always has the same expression on his face, you know. But I think that
I didn't feel like it was that bad in the book.
it's not that bad in the book, but a book is totally different from a movie. I mean, in the book, like, he would laugh and joke a lot and everything, but if the movie is focused on how powerful the ring is and the effect that it has on people, before the ring, Frodo's having fun in the pub with his friends and smiling and laughing. He has the ring and he's different automatically right away. Mm-hmm. That changes him forever. So
I mean, yeah, and I see that.
think it works.
Just the little nitpicky things that I had with it was, I felt that Sam, Merry, and Pippin were better portrayals of what we read.
I can't argue that.
What we saw,
Sure.
And I think he was the weakest portrayal out of not just the Fellowship, but the Hobbits. And the pouty, broody, you know, you can't help me, you know. And maybe it's just Elijah Wood.
Maybe.
Maybe I'm just
I mean,
a fan of him.
I kind of used to feel that way too, but I'm used to it now. And I think, realistically, if you think about it, it has to be that way. If Elijah Wood is walking through Mordor cracking jokes and having a good time, then the ring must not be that big of a deal, you know? And in the book, sometimes Frodo did that. He and Sam and Gollum would, like, tell stories and laugh and joke, and they almost had, like, some camaraderie going on.
That's true.
And that wouldn't work in this movie.
Nasty chips.
Yeah.
Our dear friend Logan, I know you thought we almost got through an episode without mentioning Logan's name.
He'll listen this far and realize that we're not going to talk about him, and he'll stop listening.
Like, they haven't name dropped me yet. I'm not listening. What made you all fall in love with The Lord of the Rings? I have to say the characters.
Yeah, I don't know, really. That's a tough one. I just love all of it. Everything about it.
They built.
Yeah.
I mean,
I just love that it's this big, epic thing. I love all the fighting, all the characters. The music really makes it special.
Yes. I think it's Howard Shore does the music.
Yeah.
It's just, oh my gosh, it's perfect. And I have a question for you.
Oh, boy.
Okay. If you had to give up one trilogy, would it be the original Star Wars trilogy or the Lord of the Rings trilogy?
I think I'd die first.
I'd take a bullet first. But if I
had to pick between the two.
You had to pick between the original Star Wars trilogy and the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which one would you erase from history?
Oh, how could you do this to me? I think that Star Wars has had more of an impact on history. But for me personally, I think Lord of the Rings would be the one that has to stay. And that's hard to say because I love Star Wars.
I would agree with you.
But for me, it's Lord of the Rings.
I would agree. Your answer shocks me. Because I asked our buddy Logan, and he said he'd keep Star Wars. Wow.
If you ask me tomorrow, I may have a different opinion. But we did just watch Fellowship of the Ring a few hours ago.
And after we got done finishing it, I was just like, still beautiful.
Yeah.
Still amazing.
Holds up.
So those are the questions. Thank you all for the questions. And I gathered, in honor of the 9 members of the Fellowship and episode 9, which is why we did.
Hey.
Yeah, this is our 9th episode, which is kind of why we went with the Fellowship of the Ring. 9 unknown facts about Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring. 1. Christopher Lee, who plays Saruman, is the only cast member who had met J.R.R. Tolkien in person. He was a Tolkienite. Yeah. I mean, he was borderline obsessed.
He said he read the books once a year, every year.
And that's all 3 of them. Yeah. Number 2, Christopher Lee, again, Saruman, originally auditioned for the role of Gandalf.
Wouldn't have been the same.
No. I cannot. I mean, can we does Christopher Lee ever visualize good guy to you?
No.
It would have been weird.
Yeah.
Sean Connery was originally asked to play Gandalf, but turned down the role because he had never read the books. Had no idea what it was.
Wouldn't have been the same.
You shall not pass. You gotta go, Frodo. Yes, Frodo. Number 4, Stuart Townsend. If you watched the movie League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, he was Dorian Gray. He was originally casted as Aragorn. And, not funny, but the sad thing is he actually filmed scenes as Aragorn, and they realized he was too young, and they sent him packing.
That's an awkward conversation to have there.
Yeah, it's just, we're going in a different direction.
Sorry we flew you all the way out to New Zealand and had you work for 3
Casted you
days.
as a lead.
Now you're
Going home.
Going back home.
Sorry. And they replaced him with, of course, Viggo Mortensen.
Wouldn't have been the same.
Again, yeah, it wouldn't have been the same. Sean Bean, who plays Boromir, a.k.a. Ned Stark, was afraid to fly. So all those higher elevation scenes, like the mountains and stuff, he would actually hike in costume to those sets instead of flying in a helicopter.
That's
to get them up
determination
there.
for you right there.
At near the very beginning, we see one of the Dark Riders outside of Hobbiton, and he stops a hobbit and he says, "Shire Baggins." That's actually Andy Serkis voicing that, who later on voices Gollum.
Mm-hmm.
And we also know him from the MCU in
Civil War and Black Panther. No, not
Age
Civil
of
War.
Ultron.
I lied. Age of Ultron.
he's
Do I even nerd, bro?
do you even nerd, bro? He's the guy who stole all the vibranium from Wakanda.
Mm-hmm.
So, moving on, number 7, John Rhys Davies, who is Gimli the dwarf, is actually the tallest cast member
Out of the Fellowship.
out of the Fellowship.
Right.
He's actually the tallest in the Fellowship, and he plays one of the shortest in the Fellowship, which is hilarious.
And he also is the voice of Treebeard.
Yes, he is.
It's not a Fellowship fact, but
No,
still.
it's a Two Towers fact. We'll get there. Number 8, the portrait of Bilbo's parents in Bag End is based on Peter Jackson, who directed the movie, and his wife, who was a producer of the movie at New Line. So, a little fun secret fact there. And number 9, the last fact of Fellowship of the Ring. The 9 Fellowship actors, just the actors in the Fellowship, got tattoos of, I believe it was the Elven inscription in the ring.
It was it was the Elvish word for 9.
9, Elvish word for 9. And they all got the tattoo in honor of it. However, Gimli, John Rhys Davies, did not. His stunt double got it.
Right.
Speaking of tattoos, you have been dying to tell a story about a certain tattoo you have.
Can I finally tell this story?
Sure.
Okay.
I believe we mentioned it in episode 1 that you had a story.
Did we?
Yeah, so 9 episodes later, we finally get to hear the legendary tale.
This is my favorite story, I think, ever. So, several people who listen and who know me know that I have a very large tattoo on my left leg, and it is of Gandalf. And below that, it has the inscription from the ring and everything. So, I went to New York City one Christmas. Becky and I went to see a play on Broadway. It was Waiting for Godot, and it starred none other than Sir Patrick Stewart and Sir Ian McKellen.
And Charles Xavier and Magneto.
Yeah. Okay. I love Ian McKellen. Mm-hmm. So I wanted, and I love Patrick Stewart too. So I wanted to go see him, just to get a glimpse of my favorite character from Lord of the Rings. Right.
That
too. So we watched the play, and it was great, and I was thrilled. I was over the moon just to have seen him. But you know, if you've ever been to a Broadway show, you know that sometimes people can wait by the back door, and the people in the show come out and sign autographs and all that. We waited out there in the snow in New York City, waiting for them to come out, and they finally did after forever. And they came through and they signed some things and all that. Well, they walked past me, and I thought, that's okay. That's fine. I'm still happy I saw him. Becky comes up to me and says, "Did you tell him you have a tattoo of him on your leg?" I said, "Well, no, I didn't get the chance to." She said, "This is your chance."
Probably your only chance.
So I scooted up to the front of the little gate, and I hollered out, "I have you tattooed on my leg!" And Ian McKellen stops everything he's doing, and he turns around, and he makes eye contact with me. And I'm telling you, my heartbeat was like, pop, 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 pop. And he walks over to me and he says, "Do you really?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Can I have a look at it?" "Can you ever let me just prop my leg up here?" So I roll up my pant leg and I put my foot up on the little gate, and Ian McKellen is looking at my tattoo. He touches my leg. He's like, running his fingers up and down my leg, looking at the Gandalf on there. He looks at me and he kind of laughs. He says, "You're mad." I was like,
mad.
"No, I just love you." And he said, "Well, it's very good. Where did you have it done?" And I told him, and that was really about it, because I thought I would faint after that.
Yeah.
No, he signed my program, and we took a picture, and
We'll share that picture on
we
on
will.
our Facebook.
We will indeed. And that was it.
And I mean to tell you, I know he touched your leg, but you really need to shower that leg. It's been
Yeah,
a few
I think
years.
it's probably about time. What if Ian McKellen passes away tomorrow and
Your
I
leg's
want
worth millions of dollars.
No.
Hack it off.
Yeah,
You
that's
should
my.
have him sign
I
Gandalf.
wanted to, but I was starstruck. I was a mess, man.
And he is not him, and even him and Samwise are not the only Fellowship members you've met.
I've met Sean Astin, Ian McKellen, Billy Boyd,
Who's Pippin?
and
You met John Rhys Davies.
I
Gimli.
did. Yeah, he was a really nice guy, and he really took the time to talk to Becky and myself. He was so interested in the fact that we were teachers, and he talked about how much he appreciated that and how we have such an important job. And my most memorable thing, he said I was a handsome devil. He was impressed by my beard. He said, "Look at this handsome devil here." And I was like, "Oh, stop."
Stop it, Gimli.
So he was great. But the Ian McKellen thing beats it. I
Oh,
think.
yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, we'll share some pictures. I believe you've got pictures of all their meetings of them.
I think so.
Yeah, we'll
I'll
share
look
some
around.
pictures of the fellowship that he has met and on our Facebook page. And, brother, it's been a heck of an episode, and I've enjoyed it. Love talking the rings with you.
Oh, yeah.
And, again, if you all think it's too long, well, again, there's the volcano you can walk in.
That's right, and after how much fun we had last week on our Stranger Things episode, we are going to return to the 80s one more time and do a breakdown of Stranger Things Season 2. That'll be
Yes.
next week, Episode 10.
Episode 10, we're going to deep dive Stranger Things Season 2. Send in any questions
Please.
about that season, and we'll try to get them answered. And I'm excited for that, man.
Yeah.
You started watching it again.
Yeah, I'm already ready to
Get
start.
your notes already
Yeah,
started.
yeah, I'm so excited about it. I really love it.
I do too, man, and I'm excited for that next week. And I believe that's it, brother.
That's all we got. After this mega episode, I'm officially spent. And with that, we will see you next time, nerds.
What's that? This, my friend, is a pint. It comes in pints. I'm getting one.